Hello, and thank you for watching this regional forecast for the Corn Belt. I'm Andrew Pritchard, Senior Meteorologist with Nutrien Ag Solutions. So we check out the satellite picture here on this Friday morning. High pressure settling in across the central part of the U.S. A lot of people waking up to a beautiful sunrise here. Plenty of sunshine across a big chunk of the Midwest, and that's going to take us on through the weekend into early next week in some locations. So we look at the radar picture here on Friday morning. Some very light showers making their way across northern Wisconsin. Some very light showers possible down here across parts of Kansas and Oklahoma as well. But by and large, a quiet day in terms of cloud cover and precipitation across the lower 48. So check in with temperatures across the region, 50s and 60s for most, upper 60s and 70s as you head further south into the southern plains. We do have a cold front, though, kind of parked up here in Ontario. We've got some cooler, drier air up there, and that's going to kind of make its way in actually from the northeast as a bit of a backdoor cool front as we head into Saturday and Sunday. We'll look at a plot of the dew point temperatures here, and you can see it come in here as we get into Saturday and Sunday. And if I go ahead and pause it here, bringing it back to kind of Saturday night into Sunday, here kind of along that frontal boundary, we'll have some convergence, and that's where maybe we could see some showers and maybe a rumble of thunder as we head into Saturday night and Sunday. We'll take a look at the NAM high-resolution precipitation forecast, and we'll see that. Again, a quiet Friday for just about everyone across the Corn Belt here. Maybe, again, a couple showers, maybe a few rumbles of thunder here around the borders of Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio, but that is it across the Corn Belt today. We'll take this on into the day on Saturday. This will be, Saturday morning, getting into midday Saturday. At this point, the frontal boundary is kind of just right along this region. We'll look for some of those showers to develop first across maybe eastern Iowa during the afternoon on Saturday. We'll take this into mid-afternoon. Here's 4 p.m. Getting into Saturday evening now, right around sunset Saturday, maybe some showers from eastern Iowa into portions of central Illinois. And then if we take this into the overnight, this will be midnight on Sunday, getting into now Sunday morning. And again, perhaps, the NAM wants to develop this into maybe a couple thunderstorms, a cluster of thunderstorms across south central, southwest Illinois. I would say the NAM is the most gung-ho about some of that heavier precipitation. I'm not quite buying it with the drier air mass here, but we'll certainly have to at least look out for some scattered showers and maybe a few thunderstorms across this corridor as we head through Saturday afternoon into Sunday morning. Total precipitation from that, we'll just kind of loop the high-resolution NAM precipitation forecast, taking it through mid-afternoon here on Sunday. And again, you see that corridor where maybe we could see some of those showers and perhaps an embedded thunderstorm from eastern Iowa down into portions of southwestern and southern Illinois. Most areas going to pick up a trace, maybe a few tenths of an inch, perhaps half an inch if we do get some of those thunderstorms to materialize in that area. Otherwise, we've got these light showers through the day today across portions of Ohio and northern Indiana, and that is really it as we talk about precipitation over the next 60 hours across the Corn Belt. And as we look at the jet stream evolution, it is not one that is going to favor precipitation across the Corn Belt as we head through the next 7 days or so. Let's go ahead and start with today. We've got this ridge out in the west, kind of a broad trough across the Great Lakes. And as we head into the weekend, here is the short wave that's going to kick off those showers and maybe a few thunderstorms across portions of the mid-Mississippi Valley here, eastern Iowa down into southwest Illinois. Again, we've got that frontal boundary across the region, upper level support from this little short wave coming through the region. So we've got the lift, we've got the focus with the frontal boundary. We don't really have a lot in the way of deep moisture, though, and that is what holds me back on, buying maybe some of the heavier solutions put forth here by the high-resolution NAM model. It often overdoes the dew points here, and by doing that, overestimates the instability across the area. So again, I'm kind of spending a lot of time splicing some of these details on some minor showers and storms from eastern Iowa into southwest Illinois, but that's really about all we have to talk about as we head through the next week, because once this little shortwave gets out of here, it's going to set up as a bit of a cutoff low across the mid-Atlantic, and this is going to bring some heavy rain to this region. But otherwise, this kind of helps deflect the stronger jet stream support well off to the north, such that we've got a ridge across the Corn Belt. We've got strong jet stream winds across parts of the Dakotas into the Canadian Prairie, but with this cutoff low across the mid-Atlantic, we are moisture starved in this area. So while we do have the jet stream support there, it's not going to be tapping into much in the way of a far fetch from the Gulf of Mexico. So a dry pattern takes us on into the middle part of next week. Where we see some changes then is when this cutoff low across the mid-Atlantic begins to break down. We will see the stronger jet stream winds begin to sink back down into the lower 48. We're going to see the flow reverse down toward the south. We'll talk about that here in a moment, and that's going to lead us back to a potentially wetter week 2 as we talk about the central part of the country. But week one, as we look at the precipitation forecast over the next 7 days, in terms of an anomaly, again, a lot of brown shading across the eastern 2/3 of the country, and that is really a reflection of that pattern. I can kind of draw the jet stream in here. We've got this ridge coming up over the top here. We've got the cutoff low sitting here across the mid-Atlantic, so exactly where you would expect the precipitation be associated with that cutoff low, and then associated with the stronger jet stream winds here, going up and over the top of that ridge here through the Canadian prairie. So that is where the heavier precipitation is going to exist. This little strip here, we'll talk about that here in a moment. That's a reflection of one of the frontal boundaries up toward the north as we get towards early to mid next week. So let's take a look at the next 7 days then, kind of in motion. Starting with our forecast here on Friday, a very dry day with maybe some showers across this region, otherwise dry across the Corn Belt as high pressure slides in. Here's our frontal boundary starting to make its way in on the European model as well as we get to Saturday morning. The European model much drier though. Look at this. We're getting into Saturday evening, Sunday or Saturday night now. Here's midnight on Sunday. This will be sunrise on Sunday. Remember the NAM model had a cluster of thunderstorms across this region. I'm, again, not saying totally discount that. I'm not saying it's going to be totally dry, but I do think we're going to end up somewhere between totally dry and that heavier forecast from the NAM. I think we're talking about maybe some scattered showers trying to flare up on that front because we do have good convergence. We do have the good upper level support there from that shortwave. We just don't have the real deep moisture that I would expect to see some of the heavier showers and storms forming in that area. So if we take that out, it's really dry all the way into the early part of next week when we start to see an area of low pressure develop across the Dakotas. Remember I showed you that strong jet streak moving across this area as we get into, this is getting into Tuesday and Wednesday, June 16th and 17th. So maybe we get some showers and storms across this region with that area of low pressure as we get into the middle part of next week. This is where we start to break down the mid-Atlantic cutoff low. This is when we're going to start to see the jet stream support starting to sink further to the south. And so as we get into the June 19th and beyond time frame, I do think this is when we're going to turn a bit more active across the mid part of the country. We can take a look at this here with the forecast here. Total precipitation from the European model. Again, we'll take it slowly here, getting into Saturday. This is where we see those Friday, Saturday showers across the eastern Corn Belt, parts of Michigan down into Ohio. Here's the drier solution with that frontal boundary sinking into eastern Iowa and southwest Illinois as we get into the Sunday time frame. Again, the high-resolution NAM model with the cluster of thunderstorms across this region. Not quite buying it. We're going to go somewhere between the European here, which is quite dry, and the NAM, which is a little bit wetter with about a half an inch of precipitation across that region. Again, I'm thinking maybe a trace to a few tenths of an inch in that area if you do get a shower from eastern Iowa to southwest Illinois. Otherwise, again, kind of moving on from that little small detail here, we really are dry across the Corn Belt as we head into now Monday and Tuesday, getting into Wednesday. Now Thursday, there's where you see that frontal boundary. That was the little blip in the overall drier forecast here as we get into maybe Thursday and Friday of next week. And this is about when we turn to a more active pattern potentially across the central part of the U.S. So between now and Thursday, June 18th, very dry across the Corn Belt here in terms of precipitation. But where do we go after that? Well, we'll take a look at the average pattern here, the 500 millibar heights. 5-day average as we kind of talk about the weekend into early next week, seeing the jet stream do something like this, that trough in the Pacific Northwest ridging across the Corn Belt. We've got our cutoff low here across the mid-Atlantic. So again, this is a dry pattern across the midsection of the country. As we head into the June 21st through the 26th time frame though, this trough shifts off to the northeast across the Hudson Bay. We break down the mid-Atlantic cutoff low, so now our ridge shifts off to the west. And what does that mean across the Corn Belt? Well, now we've got northwest flow setting up across the Corn Belt, and this is a much more favorable pattern. We bring some of that upper level support from the jet stream, some of those stronger upper level winds, and it also flips the trajectory off the Gulf of Mexico. If we look at the flow here as we go through the weekend, why I'm not so sure that I buy, a good chance of thunderstorms from eastern Iowa into southwest Illinois over the weekend is because the flow at the surface and at the lower levels across the Gulf of Mexico coming out of the northeast, coming out of the east, certainly not being drawn northward into the midsection of the country. So again, a drier trajectory off the Gulf of Mexico. That's why even with some stronger upper level support in this region, it's really going to be a dry next 5 to 7 days across the Corn Belt until we start to break down the mid-Atlantic cutoff low. We start to bring that stronger upper level support down into the Corn Belt, bringing northwest flow across the central U.S. Now we've got flow coming off the Gulf of Mexico and being drawn northward into the midsection of the country. Even as I kind of show you the snapshot here, getting into June 22nd, you see some convergence here with flow coming out of the north, converging with the Gulf of Mexico flow out of the south. And that, again, is what's going to set up a more active pattern from potentially the central and southern plains into the Ohio River Valley, something we'll need to watch as we head into week 2. Here's a reflection of that. We're looking at the European model on the left, the ensemble forecast, the GFS on the right, the ensemble forecast from there as well. Week 2 precipitation anomaly, again, good agreement here, not necessarily on the exact location, but with the pattern change back to a more active pattern across the central U.S. From portions of the central plains eastward across the mid-Mississippi Valley into the eastern Corn Belt, the Ohio River Valley. So a dry week 1. Looking more and more likely that we flip to at least a wetter week 2 pattern here as we finish the last week of June. What are the temperatures going to do? Well, we're going to see that cooler air mass come in across the Great Lakes as we head into the weekend and early next week, a cooler and drier air mass in this region. Meanwhile, heat building back across the central and high plains, and that is going to begin to expand into the eastern Corn Belt as we head into the early part of next week, so that much of the Corn Belt enjoying warmer than average conditions as we head into early next week, and that will mean some continued drying of our soils here as we look at the soil moisture change over just the last 10 days, the first 10 days of June. Again, you see Cristobal coming right up through the midsection of the Corn Belt. Otherwise, a lot of areas here seeing some drying over the last 10 days. And as we continue to see windy and hot conditions, especially across the high plains here, from the southern plains through the central and into the northern plains, again, a lot of hot and windy days over the next 5 days. It's going to lead to some additional drying as we look at the 7-day total evaporation forecast here from the National Digital Forecast Database. Again, continuing to really dry things out, especially across the central and southern plains here, where we've seen quite dry conditions going back over the last 30 to 45 days. So let's finish with a look at high temperatures then. As we head into the weekend and early next week, again, heat building in the west, cooler air sinking in across the Great Lakes, highs in the 60s and 70s through the weekend across Wisconsin and Illinois, north and east from there, with 90s building in across the high plains. Here we go on Sunday, starting to expand that heat back across the Corn Belt Monday and Tuesday. High temperatures once again in the 80s and 90s for just about everyone as we head into the middle part of next week.